My fiancée lied about a downtown rally to meet my brother at a hotel. After they both got arrested, I wired the bail money to everyone but her. I sent a photo of her with my brother to the group chat, married a millionaire the next week, and evicted her from my apartment while she was still in handcuffs. I wired $2,500 in bail money at 3 a.m. on a Saturday. I wired it for 6 people. My brother was number 4. My fiancée was not on the list. She called me from the county holding facility at 4:17 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 4:22 a.m. Voicemail. Again at 4:31. Voicemail. She called 11 times between 4:17 and 6:02 a.m. I listened to every voicemail the next morning while drinking coffee in an apartment that was about to become exclusively mine. The first voicemail was panicked. "Rowan, please call me back. I got arrested at the rally downtown. It was crazy. Please just call me." The fifth voicemail was angry. "Why aren't you answering me? I need bail. This isn't funny. I'm sitting in a holding cell. Please." The ninth voicemail was sobbing. "Rowan, please. I'm scared. I don't know what's happening. Please just get me out of here. I'll explain everything." The 11th voicemail was silence. 14 seconds of silence. Then a breath. Then the line went dead. I drank my coffee. I set my phone down. I opened my laptop and started composing a message for the group chat. 23 people. Friends. Family. Co-workers. The people who were going to attend our wedding in 5 months. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Rowan. I'm 30. My fiancée's name was Sable. 28. We'd been together 4 years. Engaged for 7 months. Living in my apartment for 3 years. My apartment. My name on the lease. My furniture. My deposit. She moved in with 2 suitcases and a cat named Pistachio. The cat stayed. Everything else is negotiable. My brother is Ezra. 32. He lived 20 minutes away. Worked at an insurance brokerage. He was the kind of brother who showed up for holidays, helped you move, and never caused problems. Or so I thought. Turns out he caused the biggest problem of my life. He just did it at a hotel on a Friday night while his brother's fiancée told me she was at a rally. Let me back up. Friday evening. 6 p.m. Sable was getting dressed in the bedroom. Not unusual. She went out with friends regularly. I didn't micromanage her schedule. She said, "There's a rally downtown tonight. Civic engagement thing. Ariel and Morgan are going. I'll probably be back late." I said, "Okay. Be safe." She said, "I will. Love you." She left at 7. I ordered food. Watched a game. Normal Friday. Nothing in my chest told me to worry. Nothing in my brain said check. Because 4 years of trust creates a kind of blindness that only evidence can cure. 11:30 p.m. I got a call. Not from Sable. From my friend Terrence, who works security at the Marquis Hotel downtown. He said, "Rowan, I need to tell you something and I need you to hear the whole thing before you react." I said, "Okay." He said, "Your brother Ezra checked into the Marquis at 7:45 p.m. Room 614. He's here right now. And so is Sable." I didn't react. Not because I was calm. Because Terrence's voice had a tone that told me there was more. The tone you use when you're handing someone a weapon and asking them to hold it carefully. I said, "How do you know it's her?" He said, "I checked them in. Ezra booked the room." Sable walked in 12 minutes later. Through the lobby. "I recognized her from your engagement party. She was wearing the green jacket. The one from the photos." The green jacket. I bought her that jacket for her birthday. $280. She wore it to check into a hotel room with my brother. I said, "Are they still there?" He said, "Yeah. But Rowan. There's a situation. The rally downtown turned into a mess. Protesters and counter-protesters clashed about 4 blocks from here. Police are sweeping the whole district. They've been checking hotels for people involved. The Marquis got a visit 20 minutes ago. They're going floor by floor. Anyone without proper ID or who can't account for their stay is getting detained." I said, "What does that mean for Ezra and Sable?" He said, "It means police are on the 6th floor right now. And Ezra booked the room with a company card that's tied to his firm. If his firm finds out he used a corporate card for a hotel room on a Friday night with a woman who isn't his partner, that's a separate problem. But the immediate problem is the police sweep." I said, "Let it play out." He said, "Rowan. They're going to get arrested. Disturbing the peace. Failure to comply. Maybe more depending on what they find. I can flag the room. Or I can let it happen." I said, "Let it happen." Terrence was quiet for a second. Then he said, "You sure?" I said, "My fiancée told me she was at a rally. She's at a hotel. With my brother. In a jacket I bought her. On a Friday night in a room my brother booked with a company card. I'm sure." He said, "Okay. One more thing. I have access to the hallway camera footage. 6th floor. I can see room 614's door. I have footage of them arriving. Separately. 12 minutes apart. Her going in. Him already inside. If you want it, I'll send it. I said, send it. He sent 2 clips. Clip 1. 7:46 p.m. Ezra walking down the 6th floor hallway. Keycard. Room 614. He goes in. Alone. Clip 2. 7:58 p.m. Sable walking down the same hallway. Green jacket. She knocks on 614. The door opens. She goes in. 2 clips. Timestamped. Dated. Clear. I saved them. Both. 12:15 a.m. Terrence texted. He said, police entered room 614 8 minutes ago. Both detained. They're being processed downstairs. Looks like they'll be transported to county holding. I said, thank you, Terrence. He said, I'm sorry, man. I debated whether to call you. I said, you did the right thing. He said, what are you going to do? I said, the math. 1:30 a.m. I got a call from the county holding facility. An automated system. You have a collect call from an inmate at the county detention center. Press 1 to accept. I pressed 1. Sable's voice. Frantic. She said, Rowan, oh my God. I got arrested. The rally went crazy. Police started grabbing everyone. I need bail. It's $2,500. Can you wire it? Please. I'm so scared. She was still lying. Sitting in a holding cell. Arrested at a hotel room. With my brother. And she was still running the rally story. I said, are you okay? Are you hurt? She said, no. Just scared. Please get me out. I said, I'll handle it. Give me an hour. She said, thank you. I love you so much. I love you so much. Said from a holding cell she reached for my brother's hotel room. I hung up. I made the calls. There were 8 people arrested during the hotel sweep. 6 of them were connected to me in some way. Friends of friends. One was a coworker's boyfriend who'd been at the actual rally and ducked into the hotel lobby to avoid tear gas. Good people caught in a bad situation. I wired $2,500 in bail money. Covered 6 people. My coworker's boyfriend. 2 acquaintances from my building who were at the rally legitimately. A woman who was a friend of Terrence's and got swept up in the lobby. 1 other person I knew vaguely from the neighborhood association. And Ezra. I bailed Ezra out. Not out of love. Not out of brotherhood. Because I needed him outside. I needed him available. For what came next. I did not bail out Sable. 3 a.m. Ezra was released. He called me immediately. He said, Rowan. Listen. I can explain. I said, I know you were at the Marquis with Sable. Room 614. You checked in at 7:46. She arrived at 7:58. I have the hallway footage. Don't explain. Answer one question. He was quiet. I said, how long? He said, Rowan. I said, how long, Ezra? He said, 4 months. 4 months. My brother had been sleeping with my fiancée for 4 months. Since 3 months after the engagement. Since the month I asked him to be my best man. He said yes to being my best man while sleeping with the woman I was going to marry. I said, was Friday the first time at a hotel? He said, no. 3rd. I said, where were the other times? He said, his apartment once. Her friend's place once when the friend was out of town. I said, did you use protection? He was quiet. Then he said, not always. I said, is she pregnant? Long pause. Then he said, she took a test last week. She said she wasn't sure. I said, she wasn't sure. Or she didn't tell you the result. He said, she said she'd let me know. I said, Ezra. I'm going to ask you one more question. And if you lie to me, I will make sure every professional contact you have sees the hotel footage with the company card receipt attached. He said, what? I said, did she tell you to let me find out naturally? Or did she have a plan? He said, she said she was going to tell you it was yours. She was going to tell me it was mine. 4 months of sleeping with my brother. A possible pregnancy. And her plan was to tell me the baby was mine. Let me raise it. Let me believe it. Let me marry her and build a life around a lie and a child that wasn't mine. I said, Ezra. Don't contact me. Don't come to my apartment. Don't call our parents. I'll handle this my way. He said, what are you going to do? I said, everything. 4 a.m. I opened my laptop. I had the hallway footage saved. 2 clips. I had the hotel registration that Terrence sent me. Ezra's name. Company card. Room 614. Friday date. I had a screenshot of Sable's text from 6:30 p.m. that said, heading to the rally with Ariel and Morgan. Love you. I combined them. The text. The footage. The registration. Into one file. Timestamped. Organized. Undeniable. I did not send it yet. Because timing matters more than truth. 6 a.m. Saturday. Sable was still in holding. She'd stopped calling. Either her phone died or she'd run out of call credits. Either way. Silence. I spent Saturday cleaning the apartment. Not rage cleaning. Methodical cleaning. I removed every trace of Sable from the space. Her clothes went into garbage bags. Her toiletries. Her books. Her shoes. Her makeup. The cat I left alone because Pistachio didn't do anything wrong. I boxed everything neatly. Labeled the boxes. Stacked them by the front door. I changed the locks. The super owed me a favor. New deadbolt. New key. Done by noon. I called the leasing office. I said, I need to remove Sable Ortiz from the lease. She's an authorized occupant, not a cosigner. The manager said, we'll need her signature or a formal request with documentation. I said, I have documentation. I emailed the police report from the arrest. The leasing office processed the removal by Monday. Saturday afternoon. I opened the group chat. 23 people. Friends. Family. Co-workers. The people who RSVP'd to our wedding. The people who bought gifts. The people who planned bachelor and bachelorette parties. The people who believed in us. I typed one message. I said, the wedding is off. Here's why. I attached the file. Sable's text saying she was going to the rally. The hallway footage of her walking into room 614. The registration showing Ezra's name and company card. Timestamps. Everything. I added one line under the attachments. I said, she told me she was at a rally. She was at a hotel. With my brother. For the 4th time in 4 months. I found out from a friend who works security. She's currently in county holding. I did not bail her out. I pressed send. 23 people. 3:47 p.m. on a Saturday. The responses came fast. Karen's wife, oh my God. My cousin Nyla, Rowan. I am so sorry. I'm coming over. My coworker Dante, brother. I don't have words. I'm here. Sable's friend Morgan, wait what? She told me she was going to the rally with Ariel. She said you knew. Ariel, she told me she was going with Morgan. I wasn't even downtown last night. She used both of our names as cover. She used both their names. Told Morgan she was going with Ariel. Told Ariel she was going with Morgan. Told me she was going with both. 3 lies to 3 people. A triangle of deception with a hotel room at the center. My mother called within the hour. She was crying. She said, Rowan. Your father and I just saw the message. Is this real? I said, it's real. She said, Ezra. Your brother. I said, 4 months. She said, I can't. She couldn't finish. My father took the phone. He said, son. What do you need? I said, nothing. I handled it. He said, we love you. I said, I know. Ezra was in the group chat. He didn't respond. He saw everything. Read receipts on. No message. No defense. No explanation. Because there was no version of this that made him look like anything other than what he was. A man who slept with his brother's fiancée for 4 months and smiled at family dinners while doing it. Sable's mother was not in the group chat. But she found out within 2 hours. Because Sable's cousin was in the chat. And cousins talk. By Saturday evening Sable's mother had seen the footage. She called me. She said, Rowan. Is this? I said, yes ma'am. She said, I am so sorry. She was crying. Not for me. For herself. For the embarrassment of raising a daughter who manufactured lies the way factories manufacture parts. Assembly line deception. Component by component. Sunday morning. Sable was released. Someone else bailed her out. I don't know who. A friend. A cousin. Someone who still answered her calls. She came to the apartment. 11 a.m. She knocked. Her key didn't work. She knocked harder. She called my name. Rowan. Rowan, let me in. Rowan, I can explain. I opened the door. She looked like someone who'd spent 36 hours in county holding. Wrinkled clothes. Smudged makeup. Hair matted. The green jacket was gone. Probably seized as personal effects during processing. She saw the boxes by the door. Neatly stacked. Labeled. Her entire presence in my life organized into 8 cardboard containers. She said, what is this? I said, your things. The lease has been updated. You're no longer an authorized occupant. You have until 5 p.m. to arrange pickup. She said, you can't do this. I said, I changed the locks Saturday morning. The leasing office processed the removal Monday. Your name is off the apartment. You're welcome to verify with management. She said, Rowan. Please. Let me explain. It's not what you think. I said, you told me you were at a rally. You were at the Marquis Hotel. Room 614. With Ezra. Who booked it on his company card. I have hallway footage. I have the registration. I have your text saying you were with Ariel and Morgan. Ariel wasn't there. Morgan wasn't there. You used their names as cover. This is the 4th time in 4 months. You might be pregnant. And your plan was to tell me it was mine. Her face collapsed. Not the performance face from the voicemails. The real one. The one underneath. The face of a person who just realized that every escape route is sealed and the room they're in is the one they built. She said, "How do you know all of that?" I said, "Because I did the math." She said, "Ezra told you." I said, "Ezra confirmed what I already knew. A friend at the Marquis called me Friday night. Before the arrest. Before the sweep. Before any of it. I knew where you were before the police did." She sat on the hallway floor. Outside my apartment. In a building where the neighbors were now peeking through peepholes because the raised voices echoed. She said, "Where am I supposed to go?" I said, "That's not my problem anymore." She said, "I have nowhere. My mom isn't answering." I said, "Your mom saw the footage. The whole group chat saw it. 23 people. Ariel and Morgan both confirmed you used their names. Everyone knows. There's nobody left to lie to." She looked up at me from the floor. She said, "You sent it to everyone." I said, "You lied to everyone. I just corrected the record." She said, "You ruined my life." I said, "You ruined your own life in room 614. I just made sure people knew about it." She picked up 2 boxes. She couldn't carry all 8. She came back for 3 more trips. By 4:30 p.m. her things were loaded into her car. Pistachio was in a carrier on the passenger seat. She stood in the parking lot. She said, "Rowan. I loved you." I said, "You loved the arrangement. The apartment. The stability. The man who paid rent and cooked dinner and didn't ask questions. You loved the structure. Not me. Because people who love someone don't check into hotel rooms with their brother." She got in her car. She drove away. I watched from the window. The same window I used to watch for her headlights on Friday nights. The window where I'd stand with coffee waiting for her car to pull in. That window is just glass now. It doesn't wait for anyone. The aftermath. Fast. Ezra's company card. The hotel charge flagged in the expense system Monday morning. His firm's compliance department pulled the receipt. A hotel room. Friday night. No business justification. Charged to a corporate card with a strict personal use prohibition. He was called into HR by Tuesday. By Wednesday he was on administrative leave. By Friday he was terminated. Not for the affair. For misuse of company funds. A $189 hotel room cost him a $78,000 salary. The cheapest expensive night of his life. My parents. My mother didn't speak to Ezra for 6 weeks. My father called him once. He said, "You were his best man. You said yes. You shook his hand. And you were sleeping with her. I built this family. And you put a crack in it I don't know how to fix." Ezra moved. Different city. Couldn't stay in a town where the group chat had circulated. 23 people became 50 because screenshots travel. His name attached to hallway footage and a company card receipt. Digital permanence. The internet doesn't forget. It just files. Sable. She moved in with a cousin for 2 weeks. Then the cousin asked her to leave because Sable's mother called and said she needed to handle her own consequences. Sable rented a room in a shared house. She lost her job at the marketing firm 3 weeks later. Not because of the arrest. Because her coworkers were in the extended circle of people who saw the group chat screenshots. Her manager said it was a performance-related termination. Maybe it was. Maybe her performance suffered when 23 people found out she was sleeping with her fiancé's brother in a hotel room while claiming to be at a civic rally. Sable is pregnant. Confirmed. 8 weeks along as of last count. She told Ezra it was his. He said he needed a DNA test before committing to anything. She said demanding a DNA test was insulting. He said sleeping with his brother's fiancée was also insulting. They're not together. They never were. They were 2 people who shared a secret, and when the secret went public neither one wanted the other without the thrill of hiding. That's the thing about affairs. The secrecy is the product. Remove the secrecy and you're just 2 people who destroyed everything for something that can't survive daylight. Me. Let me tell you about me. 3 weeks after the group chat message I went on a date. Not because I was over it. Because sitting in a quiet apartment replaying hallway footage in my head was going to eat me alive, and I needed to prove to myself that I could sit across from someone and not flinch. Her name is Quinn. She's 31. She runs a consulting firm she built from her living room when she was 25. Revenue last year was $2.8 million. She drives a Range Rover she paid cash for. She lives in a townhouse she owns outright. She speaks 2 languages. She reads more than anyone I've ever met. She is precise and warm and honest, and she has never once told me she was going somewhere she wasn't. We met through Nyla. My cousin. Nyla said, "I have a friend. She's successful. She's kind. She's been single for a year by choice. I think you'd like her." I said, "Nyla. I just blew up my entire life 3 weeks ago." She said, Exactly. Now you have room for a better one. Quinn and I had coffee. Then dinner. Then a weekend trip to a vineyard she owned a share in. 6 weeks of getting to know someone who didn't perform. Who didn't hide phones. Who didn't manufacture alibis. 3 months after the group chat. Quinn and I got married. Small. Courthouse. 12 people. Nyla was there. My parents were there. Parents was there. People said it was too fast. They said I was rebounding. They said I was compensating. They were wrong. I wasn't running from Sable. I was running towards something real. And when you've spent 4 years with someone fake, you recognize real immediately. The way someone who's been in the dark recognizes light. Not gradually. Instantly. Quinn is not a rebound. Quinn is the answer to a question I didn't know I was asking. The question was, what does it feel like to be with someone who actually wants you and not your apartment or your stability or your willingness to not ask questions? The answer is quiet. Not dramatic. Not fireworks. Quiet. Like a house with good bones and no cracks. The apartment. I didn't need it anymore. Quinn and I moved into her townhouse. I sublet my place for 6 months, then let the lease expire. The apartment where Sable and I lived. The apartment I cleaned in 4 hours on a Saturday morning while she sat in a holding cell. The apartment with the window I used to stand in. Sable tried to contact me once. A text from a new number. 2 months after the eviction. She said, I need help. I'm pregnant and I have no income and I'm living in a shared room and the father won't claim the baby. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I'm asking anyway. I read it. I thought about it for 30 seconds. I said, you told me you were at a rally. You were in a hotel room with my brother. You planned to tell me his baby was mine. You used my friends' names as cover. You looked me in the face and said I love you from a holding cell you reached from my brother's hotel bed. I paid for bail for 6 strangers and didn't pay for yours. And you're asking me for help. The answer is the same answer you got at 3 a.m. Voicemail. She didn't text back. My mother asked me once if I was okay. I said, I'm married to a woman who tells me where she's going and actually goes there. I live in a house with no secrets. I drink coffee in the morning and nobody's phone is face down on the counter. I'm more than okay. She said, and Ezra? I said, Ezra used a company card to book a hotel room with my fiancé and lost his job and his brother in the same week. Ezra is not my concern. She said, he's still your brother. I said, he was my brother. Then he was my best man. Then he was the man in room 614. You don't get to cycle through those roles and keep the title. My father. He said one thing to me about all of it. He said, Rowan. You handled this like a man who knows what he's worth. Most people would have screamed. You did math. I said, math doesn't lie. People do. He said, Quinn is good for you. I said, Quinn is good, period. I just got lucky enough to be next to her. He said, that's not luck. That's what happens when you stop accepting less. Parents. The friend who called me from the Marquis. The man who debated whether to make the call and made it anyway. He was the first person I invited to the wedding. He stood next to Quinn's brother. Not as a best man. As a witness. The most important witness I've ever had. I bought him a watch. Engraved. It says, 11:30 p.m. The time he called me. The time my life split into before and after. He wears it every day. He says it reminds him that honesty is expensive but silence costs more. Sable told me I was insecure when I found men's cologne in her car 6 months before the hotel. A bottle of Bleu de Chanel in the center console. I said, whose is this? She said, it fell out of Morgan's bag. I said, Morgan wears women's perfume. She said, it's a gift for her boyfriend. I said, okay. It wasn't okay. It was Ezra's. I know because he wears Bleu de Chanel. Has for years. I buy it for him every Christmas. Every Christmas I bought my brother the cologne he left in my fiancé's car. She said I was insecure for noticing. She said, this is why I don't tell you things. Because you make everything into a problem. She called me the problem. For finding evidence of the actual problem. And I accepted that. For 6 months. Because calling someone insecure is the most effective way to make them stop trusting their own instincts. I'm not insecure anymore. I'm married. I'm settled. I'm standing in a kitchen that smells like coffee and morning light, and the woman I married is reading the paper at the counter, and she doesn't hide her phone because there's nothing on it that would hurt me. Sable hid her phone. Sable lied about rallies. Sable wore the jacket I bought her to a hotel room my brother booked with a company card. Sable sat in a holding cell and called me 11 times expecting rescue from the man she was actively destroying. 11 calls. 0 bail. She got the voicemail. I got the life. The green jacket was never returned to me from the police property room. I didn't ask for it. $280 jacket. The cost of a lesson I should have learned when I found the cologne. Some lessons cost $280. Some cost $2,500 in bail I didn't wire. Some cost a company card and a career. Some cost a brother. The most expensive lesson in this story didn't cost money. It cost a Friday night in room 614 at the Marquis Hotel. And the two people who paid for it are still paying. I'm not. The voicemail box is full. The apartment is empty. The group chat is quiet. The wedding was small. The math was clean. And the cologne in the center console was the answer to every question I was too insecure to ask. Turns out I wasn't insecure. I was right.